Hi there. We're going to be looking at how to place a dungeon entrance and a dungeon foyer, and that'll be the start to making a player-made dungeon. So, the first thing you're going to need to do is place a dungeon entrance on your property. I'm going to use the tomb dungeon entrance, which is the crafted one, and it's actually the base of all other entrances. The other entrances, the fancier ones, are actually patterns that get applied to this entrance. Now, it's craftable. You can buy it pre-made off a player vendor, or you can go make one yourself to get the recipe. It's a teachable recipe. It's available from booksellers, so Owl's Head, Airy, Brittany Estates, Exeter, places like that. Anywhere with a bookseller, you can go in and buy this teachable recipe, or you can learn it from another player. 20 granite blocks, 1 citrine, 1 emerald, 1 ruby, 1 sapphire. All of that on the smelting table. It's a level 20 smelting recipe, so not difficult to make at all. And it gets you this entrance that you can put down anywhere on your property, and that's going to be the first step in getting your dungeon. The next step is to click on the entrance, and it'll bring up this menu here. And it says currently there's no dungeon placed. Every entrance will come with a sample dungeon you can go into and run around and explore. We want a player-made dungeon. We want to make our own, so we're going to hit Change Dungeon, and that's going to let us select any foyer we have in our inventory. Single connection stone dungeon foyer is the craftable one. There's nicer, fancier ones available from the Kodo store. You could often find them on player vendors to buy for in-game gold. But this basic one is craftable. This recipe you can also get from booksellers, and it actually requires a blueprint that you can get from booksellers as well. So all dungeon rooms require a blueprint. That is a consumable item and is used when you make, you have to buy a new one for each room you make, or you have to get a new one as a drop for each room you make. So, in the case of this foyer, it's a chunk of coal, 1,250 granite blocks, 1 stone chisel. It's a level 1 smelting recipe. It actually doesn't show... and blueprint single connection stone dungeon foyer. Hard to see because it's written so small so it could fit in. And the recipe you notice is actually, this one is reteachable. So it is available from the bookseller, but aside from the entrance, all dungeon room recipes are reteachable, including the conversions to spawns and all those things. So you can buy it from the bookseller for convenience. You can learn it from another player, or you can look it up on the Soda Wiki and just add those things to the crafting table, to the smelting table, and make your first one and learn the recipe that way. That's true of all dungeon rooms. That's true of everything to do with player dungeons, except for this actual entrance. So that's the foyer we're going to place. We're going to click Change Dungeon, go to the single connection foyer, accept. It'll give us a confirmation, and we'll say yes, we want to proceed. A change has been successful, and now we can enter our dungeon. So using this tomb, it pops up again. We always have the choice of entering the sample dungeon, of course changing our dungeon, changing options on it, such as making it open PvP, which you can switch this flag while the dungeon is in operation, in fact, or at any time, and it'll force PvP inside that dungeon. You can enable, or you could transfer it to the bank. So this transfer items to the bank option will take everything out of the dungeon except the foyer and throw it all in your bank. It's like sending a house to the bank. It can be convenient sometimes. Usually you don't want to do it, but it's handy sometimes. Disable a dungeon adventure mode. This will turn it into deco mode, so now we can go down here and place new rooms and deco, but if we add any spawners, they wouldn't spawn. If we bring the menu back up, the option will now be enable dungeon adventure mode. And if we did that after we had placed our rooms, placed our spawners, with it adventure mode enabled, those rooms will spawn and we can fight the mobs, but we won't be able to place or move any deco that we have down there. And manage lot access is your typical housing system lot access. So we have this set up. We'll disable dungeon mode and we'll pop inside and take a look. There's nothing down here right now except that foyer, but we'll look really quickly at the menu to add rooms, and then that's where this video will stop and another one will pick up. We load in. This is again just the basic craftable foyer. It's plenty large. You can in fact set up crafting tables. I've had a dungeon that was nothing but this room with crafting tables and trunks, and it took care of all my crafting space that I needed. Uh, Barrels stacked against the wall for salvage items and all that sort of stuff. But if you would like to expand it, you can click on these cross tools here, these blue crossed tools, and you will be able to select what room you want to add. If you have any in your inventory, each room will consume a certain number of dungeon points, and you can upgrade your limit by buying more dungeon points with either gold or crowns. Gold is cheaper for a long time, then eventually crowns becomes cheaper. But you also have points from lot size. I have 50 because this is a row lot. You would start with 100 on a village lot, and up and up. The larger the lot, the more default dungeon points you start with. Any points you purchase, in this case I've purchased 176 dungeon points, those aren't specific to this lot. Every lot gets those. So if I have a village lot, I would start with 100 dungeon points, plus I'd get another 176 for 276 total dungeon. This row lot, I have 50 plus 176 for 226 dungeon points. Notice how I've used 0 out of 226? I get to spend all these dungeon points each time, new, fresh, on every lot. So if you have many lots, if you have 10 lots, and you buy 1 dungeon point, you get to spend that 1 dungeon point 10 different times on 10 different lots. So it can actually be advantageous to have a lot of smaller dungeons, especially for stuff like farming. It ends up being more economical than buying the increasingly expensive dungeon points to get to one massive dungeon. So I hope that's been helpful. That's the very basics of just placing a dungeon. And if you'd like to look a little more deeper into the player dungeon system, check out my other videos.